All right, so the next consideration is your carbohydrate preload. And this is absolutely essential if you want a solid performance on race day. Your body uses carbohydrates, your body needs carbohydrates, and all of us have the capacity to store glycogen or carbohydrates. And if we go into a race underfueled, it's going to limit our performance, especially towards the latter half of your race. I typically recommend 2 days out. 2 days out, you are aiming for 6 to 8 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. And that's a ton of carbs, but we're trying to maximize our glycogen storage. In a race, you're going to lose fluid, you're gonna deplete your glycogen. And if you go in with empty reserves or low reserves, it will 100% impact your performance. So I typically recommend that 2 days out. Now, the day before, this is where you have to experiment with that. The day before, I typically recommend like 4 to 8. Some people can tolerate 8. Like myself personally, the day before, I can't necessarily take in 8 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram. I'm more like the 5 range. And I use a lot of fluids to do that because I don't want a lot of extra volume in my stomach going into race day. So now when you are doing this, it's really important that you're not adding carbs that have a ton of fiber with them. So, because that can wreak havoc on you. And that's why you experiment with this in training. The other thing you want to consider is when you're taking in these additional carbohydrates, you have to be cognizant of your protein and your fat. I'm not saying to like necessarily count that, but you don't want to take carbohydrates that are also connected to protein and fat, because that might potentially keep you from maximizing your carbohydrate intake. So if you notice, I just add carbohydrates and I just eat as my regular protein amount for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, but I add additional carbohydrates that don't have really any fat at all or any fiber, and that works for me. But this is something that you want to experiment with. You don't want to just show up the day or 2 days before the race and just slam a bunch of carbohydrates.